What is going on, YouTube? Well, I am terribly sorry that I have missed, I think, 1 or 2 weeks of this 3rd and 4th year bootcamp series, but I have been crazy busy. If you cannot tell, Phoebe and I are about to move to Arkansas for residency, and so we have been packing up a ton, and I have just been ridiculously busy, so my apologies. But in this video, what I want to talk to you guys about is what programs look for when trying to pick candidates for residency. So stick around and we will get to those topics, but before I get to that, I want you guys to know that you are greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine.
We've got a fire blazing in our hearts. No, we're never gonna stop until the whole world knows who you are, who you are, who you are. We've got a fire blazing in our hearts.
Alright guys, so just to begin with, why in the world am I even qualified to talk to you guys about what programs look for? I am not a program director. I have not ever been in the selection process, so why should I be telling you guys what programs look for? Well, for starters, I have matched. I matched into MedPeds at the University of Arkansas. I went through the application process, I went through the interview process, and I have done a lot of research on what programs look for. And even outside of that, I had the opportunity to meet up with about 50 or so different program directors while I was in Grenada to kind of help build the curriculum for St. George's University. So I was able to talk to them as well. But before I get to my conversations with them, let's just dive into the research and what research says is important for the different topics. Okay, so if you go to, I looked at some website, I honestly cannot even remember what it is, but it will be posted in this video, and I'm going to have pictures all along the side running throughout the screen. So they took a survey of 1,400 different program directors and kind of asked them what they looked for, and they had to rank all these different qualities on a ranking system between 1 and 5, with 1 being, yes, this is definitely what we look for, this is very important to us, with going down the list of 5 being somewhat important. And then they tabulated that NRMP tabulated all of these results from the 1,400 different program directors and kind of give us a list about what is most important. And they gave us the top 10. Now the top 5 are by far the most consistent throughout all programs, and then it kind of gives us another 5. So let's talk about each of those. So the first thing, and I absolutely hate this because I do not believe this is an indicator of a good doctor, but the very first thing that programs look for is a good step 1 score. So it comes back to the board scores, and I'm always preaching, do not study for the scores on the exam, but for your future patients. And I still believe that, but you also have to score well to get into a residency program. That's the number 1 thing that they look for. So the second thing that most programs look at are your letters of recommendations. So if you have not done so, go back and look at my video on letters of recommendations and follow all of my tips on that and on how to get a great letter of recommendations. And they should also definitely be from the specialty of your choice. The third thing that they look at is your MSPE or your Dean's Letter. So for all you SGU students, the school writes that for you, but make sure you give all the relevant information to your MSPE writer so they can write a great letter for you. For the state schools, I'm not exactly sure how they do that, but just make sure you have an incredible MSPE and also an incredible Dean's Letter, because that is the number 3 thing, or the third thing that most programs look at. All right, and then if I'm looking at my list over here a little bit, and the next thing, the fourth thing, we go back to these stupid board exams. So the next thing is step 2 CK, that it is number 4 on the list, that you need to make sure that you crush that exam. But not only do you need to crush it, it needs to be a little bit higher than your step 1. And why is because residency programs want to see that you are a lifelong learner, that you didn't crush step 1 and then take it easy and get lazy a little bit, but that you were wanting to study and that you were continuing to study all throughout, and so that your step 2 score did get better. All right, and then the very last thing, the 5th thing that they look for is your clerkship grades. So I'm not sure how that works in the States, but at SGU, they have like 5 different criteria that determine your clerkship grade. So just make sure you're crushing all of those those areas, doing well in those, and get a good clerkship grade. Hopefully you can get all A's. If not, make sure to strive for A's and B's at least. I believe you could do it. Just work hard, study throughout your rotations, and do not get lazy. All right, and so I'm just going to rattle off the next couple of things that are the 6 through 10, because these were not consistent all throughout, but they were relatively still important. So number 6 was your personal statement. And why is because anyone could be a good personal statement writer. How do they know you even wrote it? So that kind of makes sense to me to why personal statement is not as high. Next is your class rank, whatever, you know. So 7 is class rank. 8 is failed exams. Did you fail any of your step exams? That is also important to them, but it actually surprised me that it was 8th on the list of importance. So, I mean, definitely do not fail, but if for some reason you did fail, do not lose hope, because it was only 8th on the list. All right, and then 9 and 10 was about, another one said grades in clerkship, I believe, which doesn't make sense to me in my notes right now, because that was also number 4, so I'm not 100% sure what that is about. But then number 10 is professionalism, which I do not like at all. I think that should be much, much higher. So in short, based off of research of those 1,400 program directors, those are the main things that you need to do. Obviously, crush your boards, crush your boards. That was number 1 and number 4. So you need to do well on your boards. But if you do not, please do not think it is the end of the world. Because I always say, and I believe this with all of my heart, that those program directors, or the people who wrote the exams or make those standards, they do not determine your future. That our future has already been written by God. And so even if our test scores for some reason didn't go as planned, God's writing our story. Not anyone else, not anything else. So trust in Him and let the glory be to Him when you end up where His perfect plan is for you. Okay, so make sure you crush those exams. And then, as we said, the letters of recommendations and MSPEs. So what I want to touch on quickly before I end this video and before it gets too long is just how my conversations went with program directors in Grenada. And so honestly, they said a lot of the same things. Step 1 and step 2 is obviously very, very important. But then something that came up with them that came up over and over again is geographic location, which kind of surprised me a lot. And why is because if they see that you are, say, from Massachusetts and you're applying to all these Massachusetts places, it makes a lot of sense that you want to go back to Massachusetts. But if you're from Massachusetts and you're applying to California, you probably need a good reason to why you want to go to California. Otherwise, they're thinking that you just kind of shotgunned, you know, the applications and went to everywhere just to see where you can get in at. So if you are applying to out of state, make sure you have good reason why and kind of a pool to what would make the program directors believe that you want to go back to that state, whatever state that may be. So that came up over and over again. Something else that came up in the more competitive specialties such as orthopedic surgery, OBGYN, and surgery is research. A lot of those programs looked at research and thought research was very, very heavily weighed, whereas family medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics found that to be a little bit less. So if you don't like research, so if you haven't done much research and you're going into one of those, probably nothing to worry about. But if you want surgery or OBGYN or those more competitive ones, it may be wise to get started on research early. And then the last thing that kind of kept coming up over and over again that kind of seemed to be very important to majority of programs is doing an away rotation, which I've talked about in my elective videos, because doing an away rotation is like an on-the-spot interview. You know, they don't even need to interview you if they've seen you work for 4 weeks. So I think away rotations is a great way for you guys to get recognition at some hospitals and hopefully to get an interview without even actually getting one. So if you go into an away elective and if you work with all of your heart and you love their patients with all of your heart and you serve with all of your heart, you better believe that even if your scores are substandard or whatever may be maybe a little bit lower on your application, if they've seen that you rock that rotation, then they're going to give you an interview. I can almost guarantee it. Whew. All right, that was long-winded. My arms are getting a little tired from holding this camera. I didn't know where to set it up amongst this mess. But that's the end of the video. I do not believe there's anything else I really need to cover. I will touch on one thing. Please know that my wife Phoebe, and she would tell you guys this because it's a huge testimony for her, she did not have the best board scores. Okay, her step 1 was below average and her step 2 was right at average. And so with that, she was still able to get over 20 plus interviews and we decided to go on 16 of those interviews, and we were both able to couples match together. And my step 1 wasn't very good, but my step 2 was much better. And so we all have a different story, and why I say that is just to encourage those people who may not have the best board scores. It is not the end of the road for you, so do not be discouraged. Alright, now before I keep rambling, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys have an incredible day, and make sure that you stick around for this boot camp. And please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and only if you think my content is helpful, subscribe to my channel, because I do this for you guys. If you don't think it's helpful, do not subscribe, but if you do, please subscribe and also comment. I would love to talk and interact with you guys. Alright, to end the video, I want you guys to know that you are greatly, greatly loved, and that you are wonderfully and beautifully created, and that you are capable of far more than you could ever imagine.